Thank you so much for this beautiful and insightful introduction. It's a great pleasure to be in Istanbul. Herkese hoş geldiniz. I would like to thank to the female-led team of Dirimart to bring me together with Peter after a long time. I would like to briefly say actually our collaboration history. Peter and I, we met in 2009 for the first time when he had an exhibition in Dirimart. Yeah, that was 2009. And at the time, I was a young art critic, and I was writing for Radikal gazetesi, Radical newspaper, which is unfortunately not here anymore, and unfortunately there is no online access to the archive of the newspaper. But that was the beginning of our first collaboration, and I wrote a review about the exhibition, and I want to give a brief insight. 2009, okay, early 2000s, you may remember perhaps that the contemporary art scene in Istanbul has been dominated mostly by artist-run spaces, office spaces, and not commercial context. And there were so many politically engaged art. And as a young art writer at the time, when I confronted with the works of Peter Zimmermann, it was not easy for me to understand your work. And it was a challenge for me to understand the formal language and the tradition of conceptual painting. So it was a challenge for me, I must confess. And later on, our roads crossed in Freiburg, 2016, where I was co-curator of a solo exhibition with Christina Litz. So it's kind of an ongoing conversation, and so I feel like it's a circle. We met in Istanbul, we worked together in Germany, and now it's a cycle back to Dirimart and to have this wonderful, well-worked book. So welcome, Peter. So this is sort of like a brief introduction, but I think I would like to start how do we name this book? It's a monograph, but it's also a dictionary from Z to A. So I feel like there is almost a resistance to be defined in a certain way. Dictionary, monograph, it has multiple layers and multiple definitions. And I would like to start with, can we say that this naming choices also, it's not only related to the book, but it also reflects your artistic logic in general, this kind of rethinking of pre-existing definitions and challenging norms. I would also like to connect this with travel guides, paintings. But can we say it's a general thing in your practice?
I think that's probably a good way to describe it, because it's not really a dictionary, because it does not explain things. The most difficult work was probably to find terms, words that somehow have a relationship with my work, or that makes sense with confronted with images in the book itself. So that was the major work, the hardest work, to find those terms or those entries. And then, the rest is more or less, it's like associations you can have. It's like proposals. The text itself some of them are poetic, some of them are really art historic, have an art historic way. So there are all sorts of ductus. I don't know the English expression. So yeah, it's in between. It's not a dictionary. It's, if you want, it's a kind of monography.
And to continue this kind of thinking out of the box idea, when I was working with you for the exhibition in Freiburg, the works in the museum in Freiburg were more or less similar. The aesthetics of the painting here, different material, it was epoxy, but there was also an abstraction. And when I was making researches for this exhibition in Freiburg, I came across this travel guide covers. And you did this travel guide covers in the 90s. And I asked Peter, what was it? Like, to understand his journey from this painting, this travel guides, to the abstraction. There is, I think, a long way in between. And I really enjoyed your answer. You know, you asked...
Do you remember that?
Yes, of course I do, because I was very intrigued as from a curatorial perspective. And, you know, you told me, do you perceive what you read before in the guidebook? So you're automatizing yourself. When you read a guidebook about Switzerland or Japan, you're automatically conditioned that you're going to see this. So you were saying, do you only perceive what you read before in the guidebook? Or do you perceive other things you haven't formulated in language before? So I took this quotation from actually the Freiburg catalog, because I quoted you in this, and I thought it's a brilliant idea to sort of question what is already there and to kind of conditioning in the society. So I feel like there is your artistic logic sort of thinking this monographs in a kind of unconventional way and unorthodox way. I see a similarity, sort of, what is this guidebooks are actually serving to?
I mean, when I was doing these kind of works or this series, it's definitely I was very much interested in the fact that or how our perception is working, or how far can images be described as a text, or in how far are text also images. So that was my major problem when I started becoming an artist, and I didn't have an answer for that, but it was it was a kind of question that drove me working and try to find an answer. And the answer I gave you, that was probably not my invention. That was probably the post-structuralist discussion that took place back in the 70s and 90s. So I think definitely that our perception is formulated in our brain. So insofar, it's right what you described. When we read a travel guide, and when we read a travel guide about Istanbul, and we go to the city, we probably discover what we already read in the travel guide. That was the interesting thing about this series. I'm not sure if this issue somehow developed in this book, but of course that was always a big issue for me.
to come back to the book. So as you may have noticed, I've been scrolling. There are this, as also Peter already mentioned, there are these entries and tags, these wordings that guide you through the book. So it's not chronological or it's not thematic, and it gives a journey to the reader through these concepts. So I would like to, of course, know how this idea come to you and to the editorial team to have a dictionary format, alternative dictionary format.
So the story is it's actually very simple. When I did my last show at Dirimart, we wanted to have a catalog, and I spoke about the ideas with the team, and somehow there was, during the brainstorming, we came to the point that we don't want to have a normal catalog, whatever that means. So we wanted to have images that never had been shown or hardly had been shown before. And so, and then the second step was, how can we achieve that? And then suddenly, Zizek, unfortunately she cannot be here right now. She came up with this idea. Why don't we do a dictionary? So then we have many possibilities, many entries, and maybe then you have the possibility also to bring all sorts of your production, your context of your work and stuff like that. And so that was the initial birth.
So it was a proposal from the outside, and you took it, you accepted it, and you said, let's do it.
As soon as she mentioned it, I thought, wow, great idea.
But you didn't know that it's a big challenge, and it took, I think, 2 years to make this book.
That was I didn't see that at that moment. But fortunately, we had the time to. Dirimart gave us the time. Didn't do any pressure. Didn't put any pressure on us. So in the end, it took definitely 2.5 years to finish.
No, I think I find it important to mention this because to have this enough time without pressure. It's not, so in the art context, usually you have the pressure that the catalog is ready or the book, the publication is ready for the exhibition or for the Biennale or whatever the opening. And I think it's great that you have this freedom to work on the publication in a more, I think, a relaxed time. And I think you really realized that it's a well-curated book. So let's have a closer look at these entries. And so we are now looking at the Z. I think this is the most mysterious entry in the whole, so you see the whole entries here. I'm going to read some of these words that you have an idea that they are really different concepts and wordings. For example, epoxy, fake, portrait, ornaments, algorithm, fake, flow, gesture, wheel, Instagram, image, pixel, remix, recycling, Black Forest, interesting, Schwarzwald, Germany, specific region, publication, context art, color. So when I first look at the book, and I was very, I found it brilliant that the choices of wordings, there's a beautiful balance of this kind of lightness, kind of fake Instagram flow, because what is a flow? Like, what kind of perspective? So it's, and then on the other hand, there's this like heavy words like contextual art, image, or stage, text. I like the balance. So I would like to ask, how was the decision process? I mean, I started with the Z, I'm going to get back there. But how was this process of curating these words?
Yeah, as I said, that was the major part, which took us a long time, and definitely the goal was to have for every letter at least one entry. So that was the basic rule. And then, we started with about, let's say, 100 or even more, and then it took us a while to reduce it to really essential words that somehow can be connected with my work and make sense with certain images of a certain period of my work. So we didn't have any other rule than that, I cannot actually say how it worked, but finally, we came up with these entries.
So I would like to a little guide you through the book. And so if you go through the book, you see that there are some entries like table, floor, stage, and you see that Peter is not an artist. Okay, here I want to stop. For example, that the painting doesn't only belong to walls, and that it can be just functional or, let's say, decorative, or like light and funny lives, or it can be a floor. In the exhibition, which I would also like to come, perhaps I'll go a little bit quicker. That's okay, here it was a stage. This was in Karlsruhe in ZKM, and there was a musician who was performing on this. And I would like to go to Freiburg, also where we worked. So you use this, let's say you use painting not only as something beautiful and formal to look at, but actually walk on it. I think it's a little more down, where you can actually step on the painting. Which I think like also challenges this idea of painting is something sacred, that painting is something very, very valuable. And okay, here's Instagram things. Okay, there I think this is the layer one. I think Freiburg is more, okay, here, there you go. So you walk on, so it's kind of it's like you're on drugs, kind of flute space. So what I would like to come from here is that you treat painting as a functional object. When did it become a thing in your practice? What brought you to treat the painting as such?
I think the idea with these floor came through the fact that this material, actually it's not this series with the oil color. If you go to the next room, you'll see some examples of those epoxy paintings. So the material itself was designed to do floors. But instead I used it to do paintings, and then it was a very easy step to also use it as to do a painting on a floor. But that's the short story. The longer story is that I really enjoyed to do that specific installation in the museum in Freiburg, and that was the first moment I introduced these paintings that had been at that time were made by with brushes. And at the same time, the shoes made a similar mark on the floor, like the brush strokes that had been on the walls. So this was a nice, really nice coincidence to have over the time of the show, to have also a painting which was done by the audience with their shoes, which looked actually similar to the paintings on the wall.
So let's come back to Istanbul from Freiburg and Flores, and in this current exhibition that we are actually sitting right now, you didn't use brush, but you used with finger. And it's for the first time. Is that correct, that you're using finger?
I mean, these paintings I do now for about 10 years, and I was not, they were not published so often. And I had, when I started with it, I really felt a little bit like a student. I had to discover a lot of things, because they did not come out as I imagined. So I did experiments with brush, and somehow I also did it, tried out to do it with a finger, and I realized that it really looks better than using a brush. And the other thing that I found quite striking was that there is a coincidence how we, for example, we use our technical devices, our displays, you know, we use the same thing, swiping on the screens or touch screens. And so that was even a better discovery. I did this other catalog, which is called Swipe, where this idea is also more represented. So and besides that, I enjoy using my fingers and dipping it into the color and putting it on the canvas.
I would like to end our conversation with a quote, reading from the book, and perhaps also say some final words. Is that, you know, Peter, I know you for a long time, and I think what I appreciate a lot in your practice, and also you as a person, that the way you think and work has a lot of humor in it. And also there's something I noticed, that there's certain childlikeness in how you work. I'm a mother, so I deal with children in my everyday life, as my it comes from mothering, and that the way you work with fingers, I've been thinking about my son, how he likes to, put his finger, and also just pouring the, it's kind of like the, way of creating things, and I think you sort of, you have a close relation, I think, with your inner child. That's, I think, that's who are not afraid of just experimenting with just doing things almost like a child. And I think that's perhaps all my sort of like kind of saying it's not boring, nor I think what I want to come is that this kind of humoristic approach in your work. And I'd like to come back that I found it brilliant in this interfere. The entrance from Jazzy Kadavi. So her description is, what is interferes? To mess, to meddle, or to upset. To shift, displace, bother, obstruct, or hinder. In short, to interfere. This term generously applied to the fields of physics, sports, and complaining about one's parents or in-laws is also commonly associated with telecommunications. So I think it's brilliant that it's all this kind of humoristic way of just, you know, talking about things is great. So thanks for coming. Sorry, there was a comment?
I take this as a big compliment. Thank you.
So thank you for your patience and joining the conversation and coming here. And of course to you, Peter. Go have a look.